guys, my name is Cody Fisher and welcome to Cody Fisher's Magic Reviews. Today's review is sponsored by our good friends over at Murphy's Magic, and the product I'm going to be reviewing is Chris Philpott's The End of My Rope Trick. So, what is this exactly? Well, it is basically an ending for a rope trick. The title has got to be 100% the most honest title I've ever seen in an ad campaign. No, it's just that. And I say that, I start off with that because this is not a 3 or 4 phase routine like if you buy a, Whit Hayden's Mongolian Pop Knot sort of thing. It's not one of those types of things. This is basically the ending of a rope routine. So the cool thing about this is most of us already have a rope routine that we're already using. So this can be pretty much added to just about any rope routine that I can think of. So if you're doing a cut and restored rope routine or some kind of Pavel thing or Professor's Nightmare, you name it. At the end of that routine, all you need is basically one long piece of rope, and you can do this ending. So I think the description, the title of the DVD is actually very honest. So let's talk about what do you get? When you open up your package, what are you going to expect here? So here's what comes in here. You get a DVD. Everything on here is, there's performances of it. There's a couple performances. There's explanations and everything you need to do in order to learn how to do this trick. Now, it doesn't come with any rope and it doesn't come with anything that you would need to prepare for the various variations. But as far as learning how the trick works, everything you need is on this DVD. There is a sort of a private in-home performance by Chris, and there's also a live street performance as well. And these performances are just what you need to see how it looks in real time in front of real people. Okay, so what is the effect actually? We know it's a way to end a rope routine. Again, the ad copy is very honest on this, and I like that. Basically, the effect is this: what your audience will remember, and I like to think about an effect is what the audience remembers. Okay, the audience will remember you taking a length of rope. They will remember you holding it in this manner here, cutting through all these pieces. Right there at the top, you're going to cut through all those pieces. Then at the very end, they will remember you sort of flinging the rope out, and the rope is completely restored. So not only is it a cut and restored rope effect, it's a several cut and restored rope effect. So that's the effect. That's what the audience will remember. They will remember that they cut through 5, 6, 7 pieces of rope, and the rope is basically visually restored. So as far as a rope routine, it has that advantage. You're not cutting it once. You're cutting it 5, 6, 7 times through all those pieces of rope. The volunteer cuts it, and then of course you get the super visual restoration. So that's the basic effect. All right, now I'd like to talk about the setup. This is very important for me when considering making a purchase. I remember reading in a book a long time ago, somebody would show Cardini a card trick or just an effect, and he always had the same question. No matter what the trick was, what the effect was, after they would show it to him, he would say, okay, well, how do you get into it? And as a full-time working pro, that's what I want to know. Is this practical for a real world? And I'm happy to say that yes, it is. Chris gives 2 different versions of this on the DVD. There's also some other versions not using rope, but the 2 primary versions are using rope, and I have to say that they're very practical and they're very usable. One method requires a lot less setup time than the second method. I believe this is the first method that Chris performs, and there are no clothing restrictions. You don't have to be wearing a jacket or anything special. You just walk up with your piece of rope, do a rope routine, have them cut it, toss it out, and that's it. It looks really good. Now, I will say this: you don't end 100% completely clean, but he shows you how to take care of that in the performance, okay? I think the reason that probably the second method was created was for magicians. I don't know, we tend to worry about this sort of stuff, but it's the second method does allow you to immediately after sort of the restoration for you to end 100% clean. Now that version will take a little bit more setup time and is a little bit more nuanced, I guess you could say. But once you take the time to set everything up, it's not that big a deal. I mean, it's not going to take you that long. For me personally, I think it's just where you're performing this. Which method are you going to do really depends on where you are performing this. I say for any kind of stage or stand-up situations, I prefer the original method. I like what Chris has. It's very plain. I mean, it's very simple, and it doesn't need to be any more complicated than it is because you're on stage and stand up, and that's just the method that I would probably use because that's what I mainly do is stage and stand up. However, the other method where you do end clean, if I was doing maybe a close-up show, I think that may be the way to go because you have people closer, in closer proximity. But, either method would work well. All right. Another key important factor for me when deciding to add whether or not to add something to my repertoire is the venue. Where can I perform this exactly? And here's just my thoughts on this. Here's just my thoughts. I think the regular method, the original method that Chris teaches on the DVD, I think you could perform that easily for stand-up stage, no issues whatsoever. Can you perform this in a close-up setting? Of course you can perform this close-up, but I want to be specific here because just because a trick can be performed close-up, that's not the same thing as strolling. I know a lot of times people sort of use the terms close-up magic, strolling magic sort of interchangeably, and not every trick can you do that with. So while yes, you can perform this in a close-up environment and you can perform either the original method or the alternative method, both methods would work in all types of environments. However, I don't see this as being a strolling magic trick or a table hopping trick. Now, is that to say that you cannot do this strolling? Of course you can, and I'll give you an example. For me, I would never do bill to lemon if I was doing table to table to table to table, just because of the reset value or the reset factor and having to go back to my case, get what I needed to do, go back to the table. But would that be impossible? Absolutely not. So if you wanted to do this table hopping, you certainly could. There would just be a little bit of reset time involved. And so I guess it really all depends on how you perform and what you want to do. You could certainly do the original version, table hopping, if you wanted to, and you brought the necessary gimmicks with you. And then perhaps maybe save this for just a few tables or a special group for that evening. But I don't think I would do it table to table to table, especially if you're doing 30 or 40 tables in an evening. So that's just my thoughts on where I think this is best suited for performing. Okay, another important factor whenever I'm thinking about adding something to different shows that I offer is what is the level of difficulty? And I don't mean that in a sense that I won't do something that's really hard or in the sense that I only do things that are easy. We have a term in the magic community, it's self-working. And I understand why they do that. It looks great on ad copy, self-working, but I don't think that accurately describes magic very well. If it was self-working, I could take the piece of rope, I could drop it on stage, I could walk off the stage, and this thing would self-work itself. It's not like a machine or something like that that really is self-working. I think when we use the term self-working, it's just sort of analogous with saying something is extremely easy. So how do I rate this? It is definitely not self-working. It's not difficult. It's not really hard. There's no extra sleight you're going to have to learn. It's just a matter of, this is one of those things to where I can see a lot of you guys adding this to the end of your pre-existing rope routine. So it would be an easy thing to practice adding to your show, because you get to a show, you have it set up, you're already comfortable doing your normal rope routine, and then you sort of end with this. I think it's something you could very easily work into your pre-existing rope routine. So while it's not really difficult, there's no real sleight of hand you have to learn. It's just basically you have to learn some new body movements and get used to performing this. And that's really all magic trick is practicing, what do they call it? The muscle memory that your body has to learn how to do this. And I can see that once you've done this in performance 4, 5, 6, 7 times, it's just gonna go automatically onto your existing routine. So it's not dead easy, it's not dead hard, but it's something that I think that is well within the realm of every magician out there. All right, so how do I rate this? You know, I don't want to get into a rating system, because rating systems are very arbitrary, and it also depends on who's doing the rating. If you have some guy that performs stage magic trying to do a review of a close-up magic trick, it make it a terrible review. Where if you get somebody else who's really adept at close-up or really likes this particular plot, then they may give that same trick a great review. So I'm not going to do this, this trick is a 1, this trick is a 10, because it doesn't, you know, as I like to think that every trick can be great depending on who's performing it and the environment which they're performing it in. So what are my thoughts on this trick? I can tell you this, I like it. And I think that if you have a pre-existing rope routine and you are looking for that final ending, or maybe you're looking for a kicker ending, I think you're going to like this. I mean, if you want to take your rope at the end and you want to gather it up, you want to have somebody cut through all 6 and immediately visually toss it out there and it's restored, then I think you're going to like this. I think you're going to like the setup. I think you're going to like the method, and I think you're going to like the reactions that you get from it. So that is my thoughts on Chris Philpott's The End of My Rope Trick. I hope you guys enjoyed this review.